When converting a binary number, so if you see a binary number in front of you, and you want to say, well, okay, it's a bunch of ones and zeros. I need to know what that equals in decimal. What you do is you take that binary number and you take the ones and zeros and you put them under the binary column values. Okay, so you remember when we did the 3,482? And we had to put the 3 in the thousands column and the 4 in the hundreds column, 8 in the tens column, and the 2 in the ones column? Well, we're doing the same thing here. We had the binary number 10101010. Well, we need to go ahead and put them in their column values. Then, just like the way we took 3 times 1,000 because it was the thousands column, and we took the 4 times 100 because it was the hundreds column, we have to do the same thing here. We have to take 1 times the value of its column, 128, and it's got a value of 128. 0 times 64 is just 0. 1 times 32 is 32. 0 times 16 is 0. 1 times 8 is 8. 0 times 4 is 0. 1 times 2 is 2. And 0 times 1 is 0. Or to simplify this, anything times 0 is 0, right? So you could just forget about any of the zeros. And 1 times anything is itself. So all you really have to do is take each of the columns where there's a 1 and just add those column values together. So 128 plus 32 plus 8 plus 2 equals 170. So what that means is the binary number 10101010 has the decimal value of 170. And believe it or not, it's just that simple. To convert a binary number to decimal, that's all you have to do. But what about if we want to convert decimal to binary? So we're going to go back to that number 3,482. What do I do to make that into binary? Well, what I need to do is I need to write out all the binary columns, okay, all the column values. And the reason I stopped at 4,096 is because once you get to a column value that's greater than the decimal number that you're dealing with, you've gone far enough. Because what you need to do is you need to look for the largest column value that goes into 3,482. And when I got to 4,096, well, that's too big. Okay, so the largest column value that goes into 3,482 is 2,048. Now I'm going to put a 1 under there. Okay, so I put a 1 under the 2,048 and then subtract that value. Subtract 2,048 from that original 3,482. And that leaves me with a remainder of 1,434. Once again, what's the largest column value that goes into that? 1,024. So I put a 1 under that column and I subtract it. Leaves me with 410. What's the new largest column value that goes into 410? Well, you'll notice there's a 512, but that's too big. So we got to jump over to 256, put a 1 under there, subtract it, and get 154. Continuing with this process all the way along, we put a 1 under 128 and subtract that. Now we jump all the way down to putting a 1 under the 16 to subtract from 26. Put a 1 under the 8, and we're left with 2. And then 2 goes into 2, so we put a 1 under the 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. When you get to that point that you're saying 0, you're done. And as a matter of fact, speaking of 0, you know what you have to do? You have to now take zeros and plug them in on all the other columns that you didn't have 1s. Okay, so I'm going to add 0 for the 1s column and the 4s column and the 32s column and the 64s column and the 512s column. And what we just figured out is that 3,482 equals the binary number 11011001110. And believe it or not, it can be just that simple. Okay, a lot of people, they go into a test and they see these binary to decimal and decimal to binary conversions, and they say, I need some kind of fancy calculator, and how am I going to do this? And you know what? I have taught literally thousands of people how to do this using nothing more than a pen or pencil and paper. As long as you can without using a calculator, as long as you can multiply by 2, right? Because you got to start with the ones column and just keep multiplying by 2. And as long as you can add and subtract as we go through the process. It really is as simple as I laid it out. This is not some kind of weird trick. And then you say, well, it looks easy, but then I go to do it and it's really hard. Nope, it's not hard. It's just as easy as I laid it out for you. But let's say that you are struggling to do this on paper. Well, then the good news is that on pretty much all Windows operating systems, and I'll tell you what, that's just in Microsoft world. If you go outside the world of Microsoft, in pretty much almost any and every operating system, they do give you the ability to use a calculator to help you out. And not only do they have a simple calculator, but I'm going to show you that they also have a calculator that can, with one click of the button, translate this for you. All right, so what I've done is I've brought up on the screen your basic Windows calculator. And yes, you can use the calculator to go ahead and start doing some of that multiplication for you, right? You can say 1 times 2 equals 2 times 2 equals 4 times 2 equals 8. You could use it for that purpose. Or we could have used it for the purpose of saying 128 plus 32 plus 8 plus 2 equals 1. Okay, we can use simple math here. But the real reason I wanted to show you the calculator is because in the Windows environment, if you come up here to the View menu on the calculator, if you're using an older operating system like Windows XP, you would jump to the scientific calculator. But I'm using Windows 7, and here on Windows 7, you have to actually go to the programmer calculator. Okay, let me move this a little bit so that we can fit it in the screen. And it's this programmer calculator that's going to allow us to quickly and easily convert between decimal and binary numbers. So right here, you see where it says hex, and then this DEC, dec, is actually des for decimal, and oct for octal, and bin or bin for binary. Right now it's on decimal, so if I type in a decimal number of 3,482, and then we jump over here and say, I want to see the binary number, just one click. Look at that. 1101100111010. Same thing that we had come up with on paper. Or how about the other number that we had? Let me go ahead and clear that out. You may remember that we did the number 10101010, and we converted that from binary to decimal. Do you remember what we came up with? Yeah, it was 170. So I'm going to click on that, change it to decimal, and it says, boom, 170. So yes, you can use the calculator, but I'll be honest with you, I don't recommend it. It is so easy to mess up when it comes to ones and zeros. I mean, I'll tell you what, if I put in 3,482, change that to binary, see all these ones and zeros? You know how easy it is to add a 1 or eliminate a 1 or add a 0 or eliminate a 0? It's real easy to do. And by just changing a single 1 or a single 0, you can dramatically change the actual value of that number. So I like doing this on paper. But if you don't, and if you're not comfortable, it's okay. I'm not going to look at you funny. I'm not going to say, that guy won't do it. No. Use the calculator if necessary.